UTV, a tiny religious sect that uses a hallucinogenic tea called ayahuasca as its sacrament, could import the drink to the United States, even though it contains the Schedule 1 substance, dimethyltryptamine, or DMT. The ruling was based on the Religious Freedom Restoration Act of 1993, which had sought to reinstitute the rights of Native Americans to use peyote in their ceremonies as they have done for generations. The 1993 law says that only if the government has a compelling interest can it interfere with one's practice of religion. In the UTV case, the Bush administration had argued that only Native Americans, because of their unique relationship to the government, had the right to use psychedelics as part of their worship, and even in their case this right could be breached by the state. The court soundly rejected the government's argument, interpreting the 1993 law to mean that, absent compelling state interest, the federal government cannot prohibit a recognized religion group from using psychedelic substances in their observance. Evidently, this includes the relatively new and tiny religious groups specifically organized around the psychedelic sacrament or plant medicine, as the ayahuasqueros call their tea. The UTV is a Christian spiritist sect founded in 1961 in Brazil by José Gabriel da Costa, a rubber taper inspired by revelations he experienced after receiving ayahuasca from an Amazonian shaman 2 years before. The church claims 17,000 members in 6 countries, but at the time of the ruling there were only 130 American members of the UTV. The court's decision inspired something of a religious awakening around ayahuasca in America. Today, there are close to 525 American members of the church with communities in 9 locations. To supply them, the UTV has begun growing the plants needed to make the tea in Hawaii and shipping it to groups on the mainland without federal interference. But the number of Americans participating in ayahuasca ceremonies outside the UTV has also mushroomed in the years since. And any given night, there are probably dozens, if not hundreds, of ceremonies taking place somewhere in America. Federal prosecution for possessions or importation of ayahuasca appear to have stopped, at least for the time being. This, with its 2006 decision, the Supreme Court seemed to have opened up a religious path. Narrow perhaps, but based on the Bill of Rights, to the federal recognition of psychedelic drugs, at least when they are being used as a sacrament by a group deemed a religion by the government. It remains to be seen how wide or well trod that path will become, but it does make you wonder what the government and the court will do when an American, José Gabriel da Costa, steps forward and attempts to turn his or her own psychedelic revelation into a new religion intent on using a psychoactive chemical as its sacrament. The jurisprudence of cognitive liberty, as some in the psychedelic community call it, is still scant and limited, but now it had been affirmed, opening a new crack in the edifice of the drug war. Of the 3 far the most far-reaching in its impact was the publication that summer of the paper in Psychopharmacology described in the prologue. The one Bob Cheese emailed me at the time, but that I didn't bother to open. This event too had a distinctly spiritual cast, even though the experiment it reported was the work of a rigorous and highly regarded scientist, Roland Griffiths. It just so happens that Griffiths, a most unlikely psychedelic researcher, was inspired to investigate the power of psilocybin to occasion a mystical type experienced by a mystical experience of his own. Griffin's landmark paper, Psilocybin Can Occasion Mystical Type Experiences Having Substantial and Sustained Personal Meaning and Spiritual Significance, was the first rigorous designed double-blind placebo-controlled clinical study in more than 4 decades, if not ever, to examine the psychological effects of a psychedelic. It received a small torrent of press coverage, most of it so enthusiastic as to make you wonder if the moral panic around psychedelics that took hold in the 1960s might finally have run its course. No doubt the positive tenor of the coverage owed much to the fact that, at Griffith's urging, the journal had invited several of the world's most prominent drug researchers, some of them decorated soldiers in the drug war, to comment on the study, giving the journalist covering the study plenty of ideological cover. All the commentators treated the publication as a major event. Herbert D. Clever, a former deputy to William Bennett, George A.W. Bush, Krug Caesar, and later director of the Division of Substance Abuse at Columbia University, applauded the paper for its methodological rigor and acknowledged there might be major therapeutic possibilities in psychedelic research. Charles Schuster, who had served 2 Republican presidents as director of the National Institutes on Drug Abuse, noted that the term psychedelic implies a mind-expanding experience and expresses his hope that this landmark paper will also be field-expanding. He suggested that this fascinating class of drugs and the spiritual experience they occasion might prove useful in treating addiction. Griffith's paper and its reception served to reinforce an important distinction between the so-called classic psychedelics, psilocybin, LSD, DMT, and mescaline, and the more common drug of abuse with their demonstrated toxicity and potential for addiction. The American drug research establishment, such as it is, had signaled in the pages of one of its leading journals that these psychedelic drugs deserved to be treated very differently, and had demonstrated in the words of one commentator that when used appropriately, these compounds can produce remarkable, possibly beneficial effects that certainly deserve further study. The story of how this paper came to be shed an interesting light on the fraught relationship between science and that other realm of human inquiry that science has historically disdained and generally wants nothing to do with, spirituality. For in designing this, the first modern study of psilocybin, Griffiths had decided to focus not on a potential therapeutic application of the drug, the path taken by other researchers hoping to rehabilitate other banned substances like MDMA, but rather on the spiritual psychedelics expert Harriet DeWitt tried to address this tension, pointing out that the quest for experiences that free oneself of the bounds of everyday perception and thought in a search for universal truths and enlightenment is an abiding element of our humanity that has nevertheless enjoyed little credibility in the mainstream scientific world. The time had come, she suggested, for science to recognize these extraordinary subjective experiences, even if they sometimes involve claims about ultimate realities that lie outside the pure view of science. Roland Griffiths might be the last scientist one would ever imagine getting mixed up with psychedelics, which surely helped explain his success in returning psychedelic research to scientific respectability. 6 feet tall and rail thin, Griffiths in his 70s hold himself bold upright. The only undisciplined thing about him is a thatch of white hair so dense it appears to have held his comb to a draw. At least until you get him talking about the ultimate questions which light him up, he comes across as the ultimate straight arrow, sober, earnest, and methodical. Born in 1946, Griffiths grew up in El Cerrito, California, in the Bay Area, and went to Occidental College for his undergraduate education, and then on the University of Minnesota to study psychopharmacology. At Minnesota, in the late 1960s, he came under the influence of B.F. Skinner, the radical behaviorist who helped shift the focus of psychology from the exploration of inner states and subjective experience to the study of outward behavior and how it is conditioned. Behaviorism has little interest in plumbing the depths of the human psyche, but the approach proved very useful in studying behaviors like drug use and dependence, which became Griffin's specialty. Psychedelic drugs played no role in either his formal or his informal education. By the time Griffiths get to graduate school, Timothy Leary's notorious psychedelic research project at Harvard had already collapsed in scandal, and it was clear from my mentors that these were compounds that had no future. In 1972, right out of graduate school, Griffiths was hired at Johns Hopkins, where he has worked ever since, making his marks as a researcher studying the mechanisms of dependence in a variety of legal and illegal drugs, including the opiates, the so-called sedative hypnotics like Valium, nicotine, alcohol, and caffeine. Working under grants from the National Institute on Drug Abuse, Griffiths helped pioneer the sorts of experiments in which an animal, often a baboon or a rat, is presented with a lever allowing it to self-administer various drugs intravenously, a powerful tool for researchers studying reinforcement dependence, preferences, and withdrawal. The 55 paper he published exploring the addictive properties of caffeine transformed the field, helping us to see coffee less as a food than as a drug, and led to the listing of caffeine withdrawals syndrome in the most recent edition of of the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorder, or DSM-5. By the time Griffiths turned 50 in 1994, he was a scientist at the top of his game in his field. But that year, Griffiths' career took an unexpected turn, the result of two serendipitous introductions. The first came when a friend introduced him to Siddha Yoga. Despite his behaviorist orientation as a scientist, Griffiths had always been interested in what philosophers call phenomenology, the subjective experience of consciousness. He had tried meditation as a graduate student, but found that he couldn't sit still without going stark raving mad. 3 minutes felt like 3 hours, but when he tried it again in 1994, something opened up for me. He started meditating regularly, going on retreats and working his way through a variety of Eastern spiritual tradition. He found himself drawn deeper and deeper into this mystery. Somewhere along the way, Griffiths had what he modestly describes as a funny kind of awakening, a mystical experience. I was surprised when Griffiths mentioned this during our first meeting in his office, so I hadn't followed up, but even after I had gotten to know him a little better, Griffiths was still reluctant to say much more about exactly what happened, and as someone who had never had such an experience, I had trouble gaining any traction with the idea whatsoever. All he would tell me is that the experience which took place in his meditation practice acquaint him with something way beyond the material worldview that I can't really talk to my colleagues about, because it involves metaphors or assumptions that I'm really uncomfortable with as a scientist. In time, what he was learning about the mysteries of consciousness and experience in his meditation practice came to seem more compelling to him than his science. He began to feel somewhat alienated. None of the people I was close to had any interest in entertaining those questions, which fell into the general category of the spiritual and religious people I just didn't get. Here I am, a full professor, publishing like crazy, running off to important meetings and thinking I was a fraud. He began to lose interest in the research that had organized his whole adult life. I could study a new sedative, hypnotic, but learn something anew about brain receptors beyond another FDA panel, go to another conference, but so what? I was more emotionally and intellectually curious about where this other path might lead. My drug research began to seem vacuous. I was going through the motion at work, much more interested in going home in the evening to meditate. The only way he could motivate himself to continue writing grants was to think of it as a service project for his graduate students and postdocs. In the case of his caffeine research, Griffiths had been able to take his curiosity about a dimension of his own experience. Why did he feel compelled to drink coffee every day and turn it into a productive line of scientific inquiry? But he could see no way to do that with his deepening curiosity about the dimensions of consciousness that meditation had opened up to him. It never occurred to me there was any way to study it scientifically. Timid and bored, Griffiths began to entertain thoughts of quitting science and going off to an ashram in India. It was around this time that Bob Schuster, an old friend and colleague who had recently retired as head of the National Institute of Drug Abuse, phoned Griffiths to suggest he talk to a young recently met an Isalen named Bob Gies. Gies had organized a small gathering of researchers, therapists, and religious scholars at the legendary Big Sur retreat center to discuss the spiritual and therapeutic potential of psychedelic drug and how they might be rehabilitated. Jess himself was neither a medical professional nor a scientist. He was a computer engineer, a vice president of business development at Oracle, who had made it his mission to revive the science of psychedelics, but as a tool not so much of medicine as of spiritual development. Griffiths has told Schuster a little about his spiritual practice and confided in him his growing discontent with conventional drug research. "You should talk to this guy," Schuster told him. "They have some interesting ideas about working with entheogens," he said. "You might have something in common."